What up, y'all? This is the Twice Over Film Club, and I'm your host, Faraz. Today we are previewing The Trial of the Chicago 7. This film is nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards and is the winner for Best Screenplay at the Golden Globes. Make sure to check out our previous episodes. We have episodes out already for other Best Picture nominees such as Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, and Sound of Metal. We plan on filling out the category in April, so make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen so you don't miss out. Alright, we got everyone here today with me, Farhan, Yusuf, and Fahad.
That was a weird count, bro. What the hell?
Yeah, I know, man. I'm not good.
3, 2, 1, go.
3, 2, 1, go!
That was a hysterical laugh.
Alright, well, I know Farhan can hear me. Can everyone else still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, man.
Can you hear me?
Accents are the funniest thing to Farhan.
Hello?
Dude. 3, 2, 1, go.
A little too excited there.
It wasn't the accent. It was all one word. That was the best part.
Yeah,
man.
that's true.
All right, guys, what movie are we reviewing?
If you don't know
We
yet.
finally got everyone here. Farhan, Fahad, Yusuf.
It's 3. We're reviewing 3, 2, 1, go.
Three Idiots?
It's the sequel
Yeah.
to Three Idiots, yes.
Yeah.
4 Idiots.
Yo, what up, everyone? How you guys doing?
Good.
Good, I'm good.
Oh, well, man.
Fahad, the movie we're doing is The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Uh-huh.
And the reason we're doing it is because we saw last week that it won Best Screenplay at the Golden Globes. And it
Impressive
is
honors.
both directed and written by Aaron Sorkin, who
Yeah, boy.
is very well known for his writing.
Yusuf, did you call him my boy?
Yeah, I did call him your boy.
I don't know
Oh, I
if
didn't
he's my
realize that you guys were,
boy.
like, best
He's-
friends.
I'm just very familiar with his writing.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of The West Wing, what else are you really familiar with?
There's that other show he did, and he's done a bunch of movies like The Social Network.
Yeah, he did Social Network. Oh, he also did Moneyball. Okay.
Yeah.
Moneyball, yeah.
What was the other show? Was it Newsroom?
Yeah, Newsroom with Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges, I think.
I have not seen any of the Newsroom.
Like, he's very much about those, I guess, American values. Big believer
Wait,
in
he did
American
A Few Good Men?
exceptionalism, right?
Oh, that's a play.
Would you say that, Fahad, or would you say he's like he does a lot of very politically charged writing?
Yes,
that fits into
and
the political
he's very,
landscape.
yeah, and he's very idealistic about what America is, right, and what democracy is.
And I think you kind of get that vibe from this movie for sure. Oh yeah, so that's why we're doing it. What were your guys' initial thoughts?
Well, I was surprised that it won screenplay, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Personally, but that's about it. I mean, it was a good. Are we talking film wise, or are we talking societal context?
Both.
It was an extremely timely movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We just
it
did.
came out.
We just
yeah,
did Judas and the Black Messiah too, right?
Right.
So like there is a lot of those types of movies coming out right now. But I think at least I don't know what your experiences were, but for me again, just like Judas and the Black Messiah, this was my first time really learning a lot of these facts, this story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aaron Sorkin generally, like without even having seen this movie, you know that he's good at that. I think he's good at progressing a story and kind of revealing information in the right order to keep you engaged. That's just something that his style tends to to lend to, right?
Right.
Yeah, so the movie, high level, is about members from multiple anti-war groups, and they're charged with inciting violence at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And same thing, Yusuf, right? Like I knew about, I guess, the riots or the violence that occurred during that convention, like learned it in passing in school, but didn't know like much about the details at all. I guess all I knew was that, hey, there was some anti-Vietnam War protests happening, and it got a little violent. But yeah, I had no idea about this trial. I had no idea there were these 7 people, like who they were, and like what role they had in the anti-war movement. But so for that point, I thought, yeah, it's a very timely movie. I always feel like there's ups and downs in terms of engagement, public engagement in political discourse, and I feel like we're kind of in a moment in American history where that engagement is as high as it's probably been, maybe since like the Iraq War in the mid-2000s. But there was definitely like a lull.
Higher.
It might be higher, yeah. It might be only higher though because of my
I think it's higher
perception.
since Vietnam. It's higher. It's the highest it's been since
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Yeah, man, maybe. I always wonder, like, if in the mid 2000s, we were just so young that we didn't grasp how much activism there was. But you could be right. I feel like there definitely. I think we just had the 2020 election. Just by sheer numbers, you can tell that engagement was as high as has been in a century in terms
Well,
of like.
following the September 11th terrorist attacks and then the Iraq War, blind nationalism was at an all-time high. So that kind of
Yeah.
overshadowed any movement that was going on. Anti-war or counterculture movement that was going on.
Sure.
That's
yeah.
very true. And like, the effect that like social media has nowadays, everybody knows everything. Everybody knows everything now. So like, even arguably, I don't know. I would want to hear from like a specialist in this field, but I would think that this is we're even more active now. Active meaning in terms of activism than we were in Vietnam. Vietnam is just, we heard of it. Like, look at this thing, right? I mean, there's maybe 1,000 people, but how many people lived in Chicago? If this happened nowadays,
Oh, like how many more people would come out?
That'd be tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So let me ask you: do you think that is just a product of the times, the way that information travels, social media at its at its peak, basically, right? And the amount of just awareness there is for this type of things, because you can just imagine in 1960s what it took to kind of explain to somebody like, look, there's this organized effort going on to suppress certain voices and all that. Like, how can you even explain that to somebody when you can't see it, it's not in the papers, and all of the resources you rely on are not shining a light on it.
Yeah, I missed what the question was in there, but no, you're right though, for sure.
You can't judge a movement based on the number of participants, because these days it's so much easier to get like thousands and millions of supporters behind a movement because the ease of communication.
Yeah, just technology, right?
So that's definitely true, but I also think nowadays, okay, obviously this all depends on age group. It depends on where you are. Peoria does not have the activism that Chicago does, okay? But when I say that word activism, I'm saying that with a grain of salt, because...
Like armchair activists?
Yes.
Yeah. That's fair.
And we all know about this, right? I mean, there's people who will just, all they do is just, they cancel other people because they're just participating in what is like, what is politically correct, and they don't want to be outside of that. You know what I'm saying? So people are so afraid, I think, of being unaware, or like people knowing that they are unaware, that they are not woke, that they will just join any movement and without having any clue, without having any idea what the struggle really is, what the history of the struggle is, just so that they can put their name on it, so they can piggyback off of it.
The epitome of that was the Instagram black squares, right?
Yes.
Which is not too long ago, but so whoever, I don't know who started it, right? Somebody said, we got to post just a black, pure black, just a square, on your Instagram.
This is post George Floyd.
Post George Floyd, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea was you have to show that you're supporting Black Lives Matter, you're supporting the cause. But then everyone just did it, and it was so easy to do that it kind of lets people off the hook, because you get to say like, look, I'm supporting, and internally you even feel better about that. And I'll be quite honest, I can get sucked into that stuff too. I'm not even saying that it's like the certain people. It's everyone. It's easy to take those really easy actions and then not lift a finger for the stuff that can really have more impact, because you feel like you've done your job, and that is exactly what armchair activism opens the door to. And then building on that, also I can say information is at its peak in terms of just availability, but disinformation is too, right?
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
Right.
So let's get back to the time period, right? This movie takes place during the Vietnam War. There's a Democratic National Convention going on, and who is the president? The Democratic Party's elected.
So, well, it's Lyndon Johnson who's the president, right? And he has decided
he just got elected.
No, no. Lyndon Johnson is finishing his term, and he's saying he's not going to run for re-election. He was eligible because, he became president initially after JFK's assassination. So you can be elected twice, So he was eligible, but he decided not to run, mainly probably because of the Vietnam War. He didn't want to have to deal with the campaigning with that. And then Robert F. Kennedy, was the leading candidate for the Democrats until he was assassinated. And then when he was assassinated, they pretty much handpicked the VP, which was Hubert Humphrey. And the problem there was Robert Kennedy was staunchly anti-war, did not want to continue the Vietnam War, but Hubert Humphreys would more or less continue the policies of Lyndon Johnson, and that obviously and was not acceptable to all the people that were anti-Vietnam War. And they were like, there's literally no difference between Richard Nixon, who's a Republican nominee, and Hubert Humphrey, who's the Democrat nominee. There's literally no difference when it comes to the Vietnam War because they both will continue this unjustified war. And that's why they wanted to go to the DNC and protest their decision to make Hubert Humphreys the nominee, or protest him as the nominee, more or less. So that is the backdrop to why there was this protest, why it happened in Chicago, and the convention was taking place in Chicago, and like why it was that specific moment. That's like the backdrop of this film, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah, overall, I'm gonna say this is a movie that people should be watching nowadays. From you guys that know me, right? Like I do like talking politics. I actually enjoy it. I think it's important discussions. I really don't believe in the idea that politics should be avoided in certain discussions, when, in my opinion, politics is involved in everything. So I just think this movie kind of helps people, it might help you realize that being active politically it should be the norm. It should be the cultural norm. Like, you should be active in politics because it affects your life every single day. And if you have the privilege to think that it doesn't, just know that just means the system's working for you, but it's not working for everyone.
Again, I don't think we haven't really started talking about the movie, but
that's fine. This is the preview, I guess. Technically.
Yeah, I think we got to clarify active. When you say active in politics versus doing your part.
Okay, I'll say this.
Participating.
My bar for
doing
active.
your part in participating.
Let me say this. The bar for active is please vote. That's really how low the bar is.
Yeah, no, 100%. So 100% with you. I mean, I don't think it needs. I disagree, and that's fine. That it needs to be a part of like every part of that it should be a part of every talk or something like that. I don't know if that's what you were saying, but I think there are certain time periods where politics is not warranted. So I fully believe that. However, yeah, I mean, knowing what is happening to the world outside of you is not only a sensible human thing to do. I mean, well, that's just really it. It's just, if you're going to ever claim that you have any goodness in your heart, then you kind of have to know what people are struggling with outside of your circle that you, the only circle that you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you in that.
What Faraz is pointing out is, I think there is a tendency in social gatherings, like if somebody kind of brings up something political, there's often a lot of like, hey, like let's not ruin a good time, you know, and that is privilege, right? That is privilege, and its finest. So I think we agree that that's probably not the best answer to somebody bringing up something that's uncomfortable, right? But yeah, like there's also a way to bring up politics, and there's a way to deal with it.
Yeah. Like if you're talking about like a UFC fight, you don't just randomly bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's a very good point, because athletes bring up politics all the time and they get shitted on because people tell them that you should just put your head down and do your job, and that is, you know, that's just vile. I mean that is you know, gatekeeping in terms of who should be able to open their mouths about certain things, and so yeah, I think that is, you know, the shut up and dribble I don't think you can even call it a scandal, but the time that happened to LeBron James, I mean, I think that speaks for itself of how ludicrous that is, because people on one side never shut up, and people on the other side are told to shut up just for mentioning something outside of their profession. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's very clear. But yeah, I think for us, I agree with you on the point that this is just a movie you should watch. I think we said it about Judas and the Black Messiah too. If nothing else, just to know what happened in these events, it's just a worthwhile watch. It's on your screen at home. Netflix is already pushing it in your face constantly, right? Just click it.
So, in which, by the way, this is aside from our discussion. So I actually like that we talked about this outside of the film discussion.
Yeah.
Like the technical aspects of the film. This is a must-watch for the educational, like a documentary, because so much of this movie is true to what did happen, surprisingly so. Even just to see corruption at work, even just to see what black people struggled with in the 60s and now, still now, I think I definitely categorize this as a must-watch, along with Judas and the Black Messiah.
So I think that's a little bit of foreshadowing, right? This movie may not be perfect as a film. That should not be a deterrent, but it's a separate analysis from the cultural value this might have.
All right, let's wrap this up with our scores so the audience has a general idea of how we felt technically about the film. All right, for the narrative, I actually gave this an 80.
80.
90.
90.
So interesting. This is I guess this is going to tie into the next score as well.
Yeah, I think it will too. For me, I gave the writing a 90.
I gave it an 80.
I gave it an 85.
85.
All right.
Hey, Fahad.
And Yusuf,
Best
same
friends.
people.
Yeah.
All right. Acting, I give this an 80.
90.
80.
80.
Yusuf,
Okay.
I think we're agreeing on this movie because it's a law-based movie.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, I mean, you always pick them.
Themes, I'm going to go with 85.
I'm torn, but I'm going to say 80.
I'm going with a 75.
You're kidding. 75.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
All
I
right,
struggled
here's
with that too.
Interesting. Aesthetics, I give it a 75.
75.
65.
Shut up.
Shut up, Yusuf. No way.
Just change it. Just change it.
I can't, dude. I have it written on my screen. I wrote it ahead of a 65. It's a 65 for
There you
aesthetics.
go.
Wow.
So this is probably one of the lowest distributions of most films that we've done. It's only 5. Fahad is low at 79, and all of us are at 84.
Interesting. For a movie that won best screenplay Golden Globe?
Golden Globe, yeah.
Best screenplay. Our scores don't really reflect it, do they? Does that say something about
No.
2020?
Well, our writing scores are all high. Right?
Oh, well,
not really.
Farin is low at 80, but I'm at 90. Fahad and Yusuf are at 85.
85, right.
You know, I think is
For a Golden Globe, I guess so. Yeah,
I mean,
that is high. That is high.
yeah, it's pretty
No,
high.
but narrative is included in screenplay.
Yeah, I mean,
narrative and writing.
I'm high
Yeah.
on narrative too. I think 2 of us are at 90 and 2 of us are at 80. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the highest scores, but like generally we're positive on those 2 things. So I guess, I mean,
That's true.
I guess it shows some merit. Maybe we disagree that it should have won, but I think the nomination is definitely warranted, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, this is the preview episode, the conclusion of our preview episode. Get this movie or watch this movie by next week when our full episode comes out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this production of The Twice Over. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and sharing it with a friend. Want to see what your tally is? Check out thetwiceover.com. All the movies we've done are listed there, as well as what we're watching for the current week. Follow us at The Twice Over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where you can leave us any suggestions, feedback, or comments. And if you're about it, you can also support us on Patreon. The music you hear on this podcast is from Amerigo Gazaway. You can find his work on Bandcamp and Spotify.